Welcome to the 5 o'clock show. It's time for Common Sense. Now, it's Cats and Cosby with John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby, standing for truth, justice, and the American way, bringing common sense to the world. Now, here's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Breaking news, WABC.
Well, we are back. And a lot of news today. We got a full house in the studio. We got Judge Richard Weinberg. We have the GOP chairman of New York State, Ed Cox, Governor David Paterson. So we have common sense Republicans, common sense Democrats, and then there's always me and Rita.
There is, and boy, we're keeping an eye on, John. The big story today is definitely Iran. What is Trump going to do? Because he's moving all these different military assets. And he says, quote, I am weighing a massive attack on Iran. So what could be coming, Ed Cox? What do you think?
I don't know, but he did say there would be 100 medics moving to Germany.
I thought that was interesting.
So that may mean a ground game also.
Oh, wow. Some component of it. Maybe Karg Island or some sort of, so, or maybe something with the U.S. and Israelis. The Israelis have been chomping at the bit, needless to say, to do the next step, too.
Exactly.
How do you read? You're a military guy. What do you think when you hear all that? And then also aircraft carriers, all this stuff.
That's why the Iranians hit Jordan, too, because that'd be one of the bases for the buildup.
Yeah, no doubt. What do you think, Judge Weinberg? What are your thoughts on this moment?
I thought it's about time. Never should have had a ceasefire. It was a waste of time from our perspective and just built up the Iranians' ability to remobilize, reorganize, build up their military capacity, the missile capacity, and get more money through the sale of oil.
Governor Paterson, what are your thoughts, too, as we're hearing all these new developments, all these layers, and the other line, too, we talked about this. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said, you guys, as opposed to eye for an eye, that was the message that Iran came back with. They said there'll be payback. I mean, which is, of course, they're the ones who started this whole thing. But they're saying if there's any sort of action by the U.S. on anything, whether it's, a hit of a power plant or anything, or a bridge, there will be payback. And then Marco Rubio came back with governor and said that Trump doesn't want an eye for an eye. He wants a head for an eye. What do you make of that one?
I think that's one of those quotes that's going to last for decades. People are going to talk about it with him, particularly if he chooses to try to go further. But I do think that right now would be the perfect time to try to finish this, to try to put it in a place where there'd be a regime change. Because if it goes too much longer, you start to, get back to where I think the president was about a month ago, where he kind of, he just didn't seem to know which way he wanted to go. Now he's said, I'm considering doing that. I think if he goes ahead and does it, I doubt there'd be very much objection from either of the two parties.
Well, I'll give you my opinion. I think it's a possibility. I think they finally decided that the Iranian guard is never going to agree to anything. Yeah,
I think he's fed up, John. I agree. And listen, I give to what Governor Paterson said. I give him a lot of credit, you guys, because he's been more than patient. I think the world, anybody who was looking at things said, all right, we gave him another chance to go to the table. He's given him a lot of chances. Some people say too many, but he has given him, I give him credit for that.
I think the decision has been made probably that they're going to get the Iranian guard out of there. They're going to put deadly force against them, and they're going to do what they have to do.
And I think Karg Island.
And the question will be, in that process, are the Israelis part of it? Because they have the best information where the IRG people are.
Yep, and they're already going after barracks.
They do have the best information. And I didn't like some of the words that Hezbollah used the last few days. So maybe the Israelis take care of the Hezbollah, and maybe we take care of the IRGC.
Yeah, let's hope, you guys. I mean, this is
interesting. And the Saudis, by the way, should take care of the Houthis.
Yeah, well, now this is an interesting thing. You brought up Saudis. And, of course, the new thing that came out today, and President Trump put out a big Truth Social saying that Saudi civil nuclear development, because remember, there's this the big deal that came about. The president clarified today, and so did Caroline Leavitt, saying that it's contingent on them joining the Abraham Accords. Like, it's not like they're just getting some sort of civil license to. Yes,
took them a day to figure out that they need to get something for that deal.
Well, and they should be getting a whole bunch, and maybe Abraham Accords is it. They said it's contingent on, to your point, Judge. So how do you feel about that? What are your thoughts about Saudi getting even civil nuclear development at some point?
I feel about that the same way I feel about Turkey getting F-35s.
Sick to your stomach?
Yes. Because what happens after Trump is gone? These people have that capacity to convert the civil to military use, and you're going to give Erdogan F-35s, which destabilize the balance of power in the Middle East? Really, Erdogan, who sees himself as a hegemonic leader of the
guy
Islamists?
who's playing both sides?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
So whom do you trust more? Who do you trust least? Turkey for F-35s or Saudi Arabia with nukes?
I like the who do you trust least?
Probably Saudi Arabia, because we've had some type of relationship with them.
You trust more.
That I would trust more than these other players in this game.
And Ed, who do you trust least?
I trust nobody.
I'm with the chairman. That's
all right, let's move on. Who do you have today?
Well, we have Ari Fleischer, the great White House press secretary, the former one, and a great political observer. Ari, first, let's get your thoughts on Iran.
Who does he trust least?
Yeah, who do you trust least? Don't say us, okay?
Anybody whose last name ends with open parentheses, D, close parentheses.
Or has three names.
Yeah, or has three names. Ari, where do you think this is headed? Because it is interesting. I also said Marco Rubio said it's not eye for an eye, it's head for an eye. They sound like they're going to go full throttle.
You never know with President Trump. The problem he's going to have, though, is he can only make these big, boisterous promises so often if they're going to have any deterrent effect. And he's made many. We've heard it before. He's going to, abolish their civilization. That was the first one he did, which I thought was quite effective because it was first. And that led to the MOU. That led to the peace agreement. So, he uses it to bluster the other party to the negotiating table, and I hope those days are over. There should be no negotiating table anymore. So I'm less focused on his rhetoric and more on his actions at this point.
Yeah, and it seems like there are some actions. I'm just looking at Ed Cox here, too, because they're moving in a lot more troops. They're moving in medics, as Ed just brought in. They seem to be moving in a lot of special ops folks, so that could signal also. So it seems like he's backing it up, at least physically, with preparation, Ari. So that also carries a powerful signal, because I agree with you. These people, you can't trust them. They're not really negotiating.
Yeah, there's only one thing they understand, and that's the language of the Middle East, which is the strongest wins. And we have to be the strongest, and that means militarily. And the president was on his way to proving that. And I hate to say this because I support what he's done. I continue to support him. But the biggest mistake he made was the ceasefire. If he had kept his foot on the gas back in March, we would not be where we are today. I think a lot of this would have already been wound up and successfully done.
Yeah, I think a lot of people agree that it's time to finish the job. We have Governor David Paterson.
Ari, I think you're right. Around that time in March, when they had when they were trying to find a way to get together and solve the whole thing, the deal that we offered Iran was really great for them, because we said you can't use nukes. They seemed to agree with that. But then they were going to give them a whole lot of latitude in the Straits of Hormuz and other places. And what I thought that Iran should have done was have taken that deal. But that's not what they want. It's almost like they have a death wish.
Well, they do have a death wish because they, one, always think we're bluffing. And two, what do they have to lose? The IRGC and the mullahs who are in power, they know there's not another nation for them. They're not going to get to go back to Paris and live the high life. And they know that if it comes to their streets in Tehran, the people will rise up against them. So there's really no negotiating with them because there's no soft landing for them. There's only one landing for them, and it should be a hard landing. And that is what we could have and should have been doing from February, March, April, and I don't think we'd be talking about this now.
Ed Cox.
So, look, 2 aircraft carriers can only do so much. That's 2 runways, and there's a lot of moving parts in that. The Navy can only do so much. So this is a massive buildup for an attack, an overwhelming attack on Iran. What role do you think the Israelis will play in it?
Well, I think right now, none. I do think President Trump really sees this as America's fight. He thinks if Israel gets in, it complicates things. I don't think that's true. I think that we saw that last June, and then I think we saw that in February and March when Israel was an unbelievably powerful military ally of ours. And one fact in the Middle East that is always true is they want to ride the strongest horse. And when you look at Kuwait, and you look at Qatar, when you look at the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, if they are convinced that the United States and Israel mean it this time and will bring the end of Iran, they'll be with us. If they think there's any hedging, any doubt, any equivocation, they'll do what they always do, and there is nobody better at playing both sides of the streets than Arab nations. The United Arab Emirates is the one real exception to that. They've been stalwart in standing up to Iran. But many of those other nations will go back to their double business if we are not resolute.
Yeah, that's a powerful statement. Boy, that is. Now, what do you expect from the Democrats in the middle of all this? I found, this week are really troubling. Gary Peters. And we had Mike Rogers in yesterday, who's running, of course, for that seat there. But Gary Peters, who is leaving, he's the Democrat in the Senate. He was grilling Pete Hegseth this week, the Secretary of War, like, you're not winning this war. Why should we give you a dime? Da-da-da. Why'd you go in? Where do you see it going politically?
The Democrats, sadly, have to say that we're losing the war because they don't want Trump to win anything, and including a war.
But that's rooting against America, Ari.
It's rooting, absolutely. It is rooting against America. The only one who's really got this figured out is Senator John Fetterman. All the other Democrats, out of their disgust with Donald Trump, just don't even want him to get a war right. They don't want him to be successful. I think if he completes this and the government of Tehran falls and it's followed by a pro-Western group of people, I think the Democrats are still going to oppose it because they just can't bring themselves to say anything good about President Trump. So they've made themselves just the opposition party on this, not the loyal opposition, just the opposition party on the question of war. And I lament it because when our troops are engaged, you would want everybody in our country to be for us. Yeah,
100%. Judge Weinberg.
All right, so what are your thoughts about the DSA takeover of the Democratic Party?
I am all for it.
Crazy. We played crazy yesterday. It fits.
I'm just glad at least some Democrats like Van Jones have started to speak out to say that this is not good for Democrats. This is not a big tent. This is a movement that has to be defeated and stopped. That is exactly how the Democrats need to look at the rise of the socialists. This was the equivalent of inside the Republican Party, there was a group of, and I will say it this way, David Duke, Ku Klux Klan leaders, people who have a horrendous agenda that is going to harm our country. You don't bring them into your tent because you want to win elections. You kick them out of your tent because you want to win elections. That is what Democrats have to recognize about the rise of socialism, about people like incoming Congressman Chevalier, who founded a group dedicated to the ending Western civilization. The words on the webpage of the group, the total eradication of Western civilization. You've got in Colorado a candidate who blamed September 11th on the United States. Whose tent is big enough to say, yeah, we blame September 11th on the United States? You have in Queens, Claire Valdez, who wants to nationalize the airline industry. You've got the most lunatic ideas that are horrible for the Democrats, and they need to put up a wall and keep these socialists out and work to defeat them everywhere. And if the socialists win, do not caucus with them in Congress.
Yeah, the problem is, like you said, you brought up Fetterman, and I'm trying to think of like,
give me another senator.
Right, another senator.
Give me another Democratic senator.
Right, and then I've seen Gottheimer a little bit on the House side, but that's about it. I mean, how sad is that, Ari?
I remember the days on the Hill when Scoop Jackson, Sam Nunn, there were so many powerful conservative Democrats who were strong national defense. They wanted America to win the Cold War no matter who the president was, and that's how come we won the Cold War. There was bipartisan support for defeating the Soviets and winning the Cold War. If today's Democrats were there, I don't think they would support winning the Cold War. I think they make excuses for the Soviet Union.
I sadly agree, and that what a sad partisan state that they're in. We can have Governor Patterson.
There's one very dangerous situation that we really haven't talked about, and that is the polling nationally. People under 40 who are Democrats, they're the ones who are supporting this, and that's the reason why a lot of Democrats who know better, who deep in their hearts should be acting more differently, are becoming shills for a group of people that have nothing to offer the country.
Yeah, that's where all the energy and the momentum for the socialist movement is coming from. It's really well-educated. It's people with postgraduate degrees or college degrees. You see often. Chevalier said life in New York City is unaffordable, she says, as a 34-year-old college student. She's still working on her PhD. She's been doing it
and you know what, Ari? She won 5% of the vote in a congressional district that had 700,000 people. She won by 2,500 votes. If anybody had worked hard on the other side, and I tried to help the sitting congressman, he wouldn't even return my phone calls, and she won. And that's how it's happening all over.
So, Ari,
and that's how AOC got started too. She won in a low primary summer turnout in the primary, and
exactly
went on to win all her congressional races.
The latest in New York is that AOC is going to run for president, and she's number one in position.
Yeah, there's a new poll. It's a University of New Hampshire poll. 22, Buttigieg 21, Harris has 5.
Yeah, and
sounds right.
The next thing is that Zorhan is going to run for the U.S. Senate seat.
This is not happening, John. I know they say it. I know it's a rumor. That's not going to happen.
What do you think, Ari?
I've always doubted AOC would take a step up because she's famous. She's got a platform. Why does she need a different title in front of her name? Except for president. That's why I never thought she really would run against Schumer. But except for the presidency, and if she starts to really think she can win the presidency, and remember how close Bernie Sanders came in 2020. If Elizabeth Warren had dropped out earlier, Bernie Sanders would have defeated Joe Biden in the Democratic primaries. So if she thinks she can win the presidency, someone's got to fill the socialist lane in this election. There will be a socialist lane inside the Democratic Party.
Yeah, there will be.
And this is just a question of her courage now at this point. I don't think it's a question of can she win. I think the path is potentially there in 2028 for a socialist to take the Democrat Party when it just narrowly wasn't there in 2020.
Wow, that's a big deal.
Thank you so much for coming on, and let's keep praying for America, and let's move forward, and we'll catch up with you again real soon.
Thank you, Ari, so much.
Great job for America. Thank you.
You too. We love you, Ari.
And now let's go to KT McFarland, and KT is our speaker in Southampton tomorrow.
Oh, that's Saturday.
Saturday. I thought it was Friday already. My God,
it's been a long week. But you got a great speaker, KT. Can I be your agent? That's a great booking.
Oh, are you kidding? It is the prime booking in the Hamptons on Saturday. Absolutely. I mean, all the movers and shakers show up. They come, they go to this luncheon at a very fancy restaurant in Southampton. Every one of them comes and kisses the ring of John Catsimatidis.
No.
And then,
first of all, that's not true. And second, it's breakfast. It's breakfast.
It's breakfast.
It's like John sits at a table, and then they all come up. Maybe they don't kneel and genuflect like they did in Godfather Part 3, but they all come and kiss the ring.
Well, we get it for free. We get it for free. So
let's move on. Let's move on. Let's talk about. Give us your gut feeling. What the heck is going to happen in Iran? What's going on?
I think President Trump is being presented right now with 3 options: small, medium, and large, basically. One is to, continue what you're doing, bombing a little bit every night, hoping they come back to the negotiating table, hoping at some point in the not-too-distant future you break their will. The second option would be, so that's the small option. The big option would be go in and hit them with everything, and then go in and do a sudden shock and awe, go after their civilian infrastructure, go after their bridges, go after their water desalinization plants, go over their energy infrastructure, just level it. And then the medium option will be, I think, go after Pickaxe Mountain, which is the one we think new nuclear site, which is either a new one or it's got stuff from the old sites that have been moved into Pickaxe Mountain, buried deep in the mountains. We absolutely can get that, bunker buster bombs. I think the other thing that they'll be presenting is, okay, the IRGC is not budging. Maybe we're working now with the third tier of leaders. We've killed the first and second tier. Maybe it's time to take out the third, fourth, and the fifth tier of leaders until we find somebody who will do a deal.
So how complicated is that? Like you just said, KT, I mean, you see these people out there that are, quote, the more moderates, and you see the statements from them. I mean, they're darn right frightening. They don't sound like moderates at all.
No, but remember, it's crazy and crazier. But part of what they're saying is,
KT, that's a great line.
They're crazy and crazier, and the really crazy ones want to be martyrs. No deal is good enough for them. They just want to kill every Christian, every Jew, every Muslim who doesn't agree with their variety of Islam, and they're not going to be persuaded. They'd rather be martyrs. The other ones, the more practical ones, they may not like it, but they don't want to be martyrs. And so those are the ones you want to do a deal with. Those are crazy, not the crazier. They're just the crazies. And they've been pretty, I think they need to do it. They know they can't survive much more of this because as a country of 91 million people, they're smart people, they're well educated by and large. You have to have some livelihood for these people. And if President Trump does the extreme option, those people it'll take them a generation before they even can climb back to where they were.
Yeah. So how do you get the IRGC? One of the things we talked about the other day, John, I think you asked, I think it was Admiral Harwood or Blaine, but one of them was saying, maybe it was Admiral Harwood. It was different numbers. We heard from Blaine, I think it was like 20 or 30,000. Maybe he's talking about the leadership. But Harwood said about 150,000, including the leadership. But that's a lot of people.
It's not a lot of people in a country of 91 million people. And that's not nearly the size of, for example, of the American military.
Right. No, you're right. In that comparison, yeah.
And then the other thing that I think is just fascinating that no one has remarked on, so there are two militaries in Iran. There's the Revolutionary Guard. They came in with the Ayatollah in 1979, 1980. These are the true believers. They'd rather be martyrs. But then there's an army, a professional army that predates the IRGC, and that's the Iranian army. And President Trump has, by and large, left them alone. To me, that's a potential if they can degrade the IRGC enough, and they have the civilian leaders who want to cut a deal because they know they have to. Is there an Iranian professional army that would be willing to do a deal?
Yeah, that could be interesting. Wow. What do you think of the Saudi stuff? What do you think of the fact that President Trump came out today and said the whole nuclear development by Saudi civilian, he says, is now contingent on Abraham Accords. Before there wasn't this contingency, but he came out today and said there is a contingency that's not going to just get it. They have to step up and normalize relationships. What do you think?
That's actually the bigger takeaway in a weird way, is because the Saudis were the last piece of the puzzle for the Abraham Accords. And with the Saudis being willing to sign the Abraham Accords means you make peace with Israel and you agree to trade with Israel, recognize Israel. You can potentially work with the Israeli military. The Saudis want to have a high-tech, they want to be known as a high-tech nation. What's the biggest high-tech nation in the region? Israel. So if the Saudis make a peace agreement with Israel, which is what the Abraham Accords are, you could see economic development between the two. But what it does is it combines the Gulf Arabs, Bahrain and Kuwait and UAE, but most particularly the Saudis, with the Israelis, with the United States. And at the same time, the countries right around Israel, Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, they're signed on to having some kind of a relationship with Israel as well. So you could see a Middle East where there's one odd man out, and that's Iran. Everybody else is at peace, and they're trading with each other. and they're working together. I think that's the big takeaway. You know, these guys have been fighting with each other since, you know, like 1000 BC, these tribes have been. They call them different stuff then. You know, the Palestinians used to be the Philistines. But if you can possibly get a deal where they're all trading with each other instead of trying to kill each other, it would be an incredible lasting legacy for the world.
Ed Cox.
So, KT, as part of that, what's going on in Lebanon? It looks like the Lebanese government and army are now stepping up. Are we behind that in training them and getting them so they can, in fact, take over from Israel where the Hezbollah are?
Yeah, so the country of Lebanon, as you know, Ed, before the Lebanese Civil War, was a Paris of the Middle East. It was a sophisticated country, well-educated people, but it went through a civil war in the 70s, and it's just sort of gone downhill from then. And the Hezbollah, you know, Iran's proxy military, has been running Lebanon. But now that President Trump has done a deal with Lebanon, Israel is occupying part of Lebanon, and what Israel's trying to do is it doesn't want to kill Lebanese. It wants to kill Hezbollah in Lebanon. And that is a potential. It has a potential of really working well. Why? Because Israel has shown that it knows how to take out proxies, you know, Hamas being a great example. It also shows that Iran doesn't have a lot of extra money. So the money that Iran was giving to Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis and everybody else, that's all drying up. So there may be a prospect there where Lebanon could be a sovereign nation again, I guess is the way to say it, the same way that Syria is now a sovereign nation.
Well, that would be very interesting. And listen, if especially if the Lebanese government can play a role in that and take control back of their country, that would be enormous. So
Huge.
let's see where it goes. KT, thank you. We always love your perspective, and I'm sure you're going to have a good time on Saturday morning.
KT, I look forward, and she's bringing her daughter, who is an officer, assembly person over in Sarasota.
She's a state representative, the Florida State House, and has been called by the Wall Street Journal and others as a rising star in South Florida politics.
Oh,
wow,
how
that's
cool.
wonderful.
Wow, good genes. She has good genes.
And she's even on the short list, John, for Lieutenant Governor of Florida.
Wow.
Wow. Oh, my God. Keep us posted. I can't wait to hear more about this breakfast, KT.
Well, we'll see her on Saturday.
You got to fill me in.
2 days. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, KT. And John, we're going to take a break. And then we have Bruce Blakeman right after the break, of course, GOP candidate for New York governor. And boy, is there a lot to talk about.
Common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Cats and Cosby on 77 WABC. Breaking news, WABC.
Well, this just in, guys. Billionaire hedge founder Bill Ackman is taking a jab at Zohran Mamdani, the New York City mayor, saying he's deeply, deeply disappointed with him. And then he was asked, would you consider running for mayor yourself, Bill Ackman? And he said, I wouldn't rule it out. So this could be a very interesting race, but a lot of heat, of course, on Zohran Mamdani. And also, Judge, the other news today was on the second home tax that Zohran Mamdani said he's going to do something's in the mail.
That's right. He said, look in your mailbox. You've got mail. Anybody who has an apartment, $5 million or more, you're going to be paying a pied-à-terre tax. That'll be really good to drive the economic producers out of the city. That's going to be very good for revenues because you're going to lose those revenues, and that will not build housing, and it will destabilize the apartment base in the city. Other than that, it's brilliant.
Yeah, other than that, it gives new meaning to, what was the film? You've Got Mail, right? It gives new meaning to it.
That was a good movie, but this mail is a bad news.
Yeah, this is a bad news for sure. And you guys, let's bring in, of course, Republican candidate for governor of New York, Bruce Blakeman. We love Bruce. Bruce, what a mess New York City and New York State's in.
Well, you have Mamdani the commie and Comrade Kathy running a state and city that are in a death spiral because of their policies, and they keep doubling down. They don't realize that when these high net worth individuals leave, they take with them tax revenue. So now the burden's going to fall on middle class people, and they take away jobs like carpenters, electricians, plumbers, waiters, waitresses, bartenders, dry cleaners, dog walkers, you name it, and those people suffer. And other states are trying to lure high net worth individuals into their state, and we're just shunning them. We're overtaxing them. Our electric bills are 70% higher than the national average. They are making it unaffordable for everybody, and they're saying to people who are job creators, we don't want you in New York State, and that's why we're number 50 in economic development. The once great Empire State is last in economic outlook. That is a disgrace. When I become governor, that will all change.
Yeah, it is a disgrace that it's so just, and it doesn't seem to be getting better. That's the problem also, Bruce. We have Judge Weinberg.
So, Bruce, what do you think about this idea of having a moratorium on the data centers? Isn't that a brilliant idea?
Well, Kathy Hochul says that she wants a 1-year moratorium. She calls it a moratorium. I call it a ban on the fastest growing industry in the world, an industry that everybody recognizes is part of the future of our economy. And she wants this moratorium because she wants to figure out how to make it work. Well, what the hell have you been doing for 4 years? You should have had this figured out. And by the way, I've talked to AI data center people. I've talked to local government officials. They would be very happy to work out a partnership that would lower electric costs for the surrounding community by having their own energy generation at these AI data centers. It would not be a burden on water supplies because they would put in water recirculation systems. So my question to Kathy Hochul is, what the hell have you been doing? When I become governor, we'll work it out so that it's a win-win-win. So the people who live around data centers will have lower taxes, lower electric bills, safer water supply, and we will be able to employ a lot of construction people building these and a lot of permanent jobs and keeping them in our state.
And Bruce,
figure it out, Kathy. You haven't been able to do it. I've already figured out. I'll get it done.
And Bruce, by doing this, you're protecting America's national security because otherwise you're giving a leg up in the competition with China.
Yeah, China's doing it. You know, they're already going full throttle, right?
And how about
listen, Kathy Hochul had a Chinese spy in the upper echelons of state government that was confidential advisor to her. So I'm not sure that there aren't more people in her administration that are spying for China, because this will do nothing but give China a leg up on America. And by the way, New York has its own separate and distinct economy from America. We should be one of the most vibrant economies in the world, but we are now dead last. I want to create good jobs with good benefits for people so they have more money in their pocket, so they can afford things that they want rather than live paycheck to paycheck. That's the kind of governor I want to be.
Ed Cox.
Bruce, how about energy from our southern tier to drive those data centers?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we are sitting on one of the largest natural gas reserves in the world. And we don't extract that natural gas because Kathy Hochul is wedded to a scam. It's called the green energy scam, where she takes money out of your electric payment every single month and invests in crazy projects like solar panels on solar farms in rich farmland, upstate New York, that's covered under snow 3 to 4 months out of the year, produces no energy, very, very expensive. When we have all this natural gas, and you know the worst thing about it is, Kathy Hochul, the hypocrite, is buying that natural gas from Pennsylvania, so we don't get the tax revenue, we don't get the jobs, we don't get the economic development, we don't get the increased supply that would lower all of our electric costs. Kathy Hochul has been an absolute failure on energy policy, and that's why our electric rates are 70% higher than the national average.
And Bruce, before we let you go, to your thoughts on all the Zora Mandani and the flip-flop and everything going on with Netanyahu. You know what's really scary? I was looking at some new numbers on anti-Semitic crimes. I mean, they have skyrocketed in New York. How important is doing something to combat that, and a clear message from the top?
Well, first of all, Zoran Mandani is not only anti-Semitic, he's anti-Christian. I mean, this guy is the mayor of the city of New York, the largest religion in the whole city is Catholic. He couldn't find an hour of his time to go to the installation of a new archbishop. He has left both Little Italies, the one in the Bronx and the one in Lower Manhattan, off of the immigration tourist map that was created. He doesn't even have Little Odessa there. He doesn't have Hell's Kitchen where the Irish immigrants came. He doesn't have, the areas where the Greeks have been immigrating to, like Astoria. He is somebody that is anti-American in his values. His July 4th speech was absolutely dark and vindictive. Didn't have one good thing to say about America on the 250th anniversary of America. This guy's a disaster. We're going to need a governor that keeps him in check so he doesn't get out of control, and I'm up for the job.
Yeah, I will say that speech on July 4th, that was shocking. It was really shocking. What a contrast to what we heard from President Trump, who was all pro-America, celebrating this great country. It couldn't have been a bigger contrast.
And can I say one more thing?
Of course.
This threat to arrest Bibi Netanyahu, the prime minister of the Jewish state, if he wants to single out countries, why don't you start where you came from, in Uganda, where they torture people who have different political persuasions, where they kill people in mass executions. Why don't you arrest somebody like that when they come here? What about Putin and the millions of people who have died in the last few years with the war of the illegal invasion of the Ukraine? What about Xi and his policies? What about North Korea? You know what? You know how I know he's an anti-Semite? Because he only singles out Israel. Israel has human rights. They have a democracy. They have religious freedom. They have an independent judiciary. All the things that these other countries don't have, and he never says a word about him. He is a virulent anti-Semite.
Some of the comments have been shocking. I 100% agree with you on that. Bruce, thank you so much. We wish you so much luck. Boy, is there a lot for you to talk about. You have a lot of material to work with there. That is for sure.
I'm looking forward to it. It's always a pleasure to be on with you guys. God bless you all, and God bless America. It helps on the way.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce. Very much.
And Governor Patterson, how does the black community feel about Zoran?
It's not really clear. He got a lot of black votes in the mayor's race.
Because he was Democratic?
Well, remember, he won the Democratic primary, and then he went ahead and won the general election. But it's kind of a misnomer. It's just not clear yet about him.
You know what's interesting, Gov, when you bring that up? I was watching a comment not too long ago from James Clyburn. And James Clyburn is very upset with the DSA, of which Zoran Mondani is a member of. And there seems to be a number of different groups. Donovan Richards also made a comment, too. Queensborough president talked about how he feels like African Americans are being let out. And Clyburn almost went much further, saying he was looking at a rally of some of these DSA people, and he said, and I didn't see anybody who looked like me, obviously inferring that they're leaving out the African Americans.
85% of the young kids are white.
It's an interesting point.
And shockingly, as I said before, that the under 40 black voter, men and women, are voting for the socialists, and I haven't the slightest idea why it's happening.
Yeah, it's a troubling trend, that is for sure.
When they go after homes, middle-class homes, they're going after the rising group of black and Latino and Asian people who see having a home as the American dream. So when they attack this and they're trying to take over their property and are against personal, private property, they think it's better off that the government seizes housing. They're just going after the Asians, the blacks, and the Latinos. How obvious could it be?
Yeah, it's interesting because you're starting to see that schism that we're talking about, and we'll see where it goes as we head to the midterms. That's for sure.
And now the hot news of the day brought to us by Goya Foods.
It's the top news of the day, sponsored by Goya. Here's Rita Cosby.
And John, I know you love the Goya beans, right? They are the best.
I love them. Well, they are delicious and they are healthy.
Yeah, very healthy, too. Ed, I know you're a fan, too, as well.
Yum.
Ed's smiling, so you know that's a seal of approval. And here are the headlines, guys. As we were talking about at the top, President Trump says he is weighing a massive attack against Iran. Speaking to Axios, President Trump says the strikes would be bigger than the ones conducted during Operation Epic Fury. The president didn't give a deadline for when he would make an exact decision. And weather-wise, the weather's been so crazy, but all over the country, we're seeing a tropical storm, Bertha, is pushing inland near the Texas-Louisiana border with winds up to 45 miles an hour. The storm's expected to bring heavy rain, storm surge, and possible flooding to parts of the Texas coast. And those are the big headlines, John. Coming up, we're going to talk more about this big headline that President Trump weighing massive attacks against Iran. General Arnold Punara, who always has great insight, he's coming up right after the break.
You're commuting home with Cats and Cosby. Now, here's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby on 77 WABC.
Well, we are back, and with us today is General Arnold
Punaro, the great Arnold Punaro.
Yes, and, well, General, you've heard, I don't know if you've heard everything we've been talking about. It looks like President Trump has decisions ahead of him. And I guess Katie McFarland was with us before, and she says that he probably has three different decisions. What is your take?
Well, first of all, I've been in Washington traffic myself, so it doesn't sound as bad as your New York traffic, so I didn't hear anything earlier. Obviously, KT McFarland's one of the best we've ever had, so I'd always be interested in what she would have to say. My view is our military is ready 24/7 to execute whatever the commander-in-chief has directed at this particular point in time. My own personal view remains I'm a huge skeptic on the diplomatic track, as you know. I thought it was a dead-end street. I think it's still a dead-end street. I think we have to put maximum military and economic pressure on Iran and continue that. We still have a lot of targets that we need to work down. We've got to make sure they can never reconstitute their nuclear program. We don't want them to be able to have the ability to fund and train and export terrorism through Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis. And obviously, we've got to get the Strait of Hormuz reopened to freedom of navigation. So there's a lot of work for our military to do.
You know, General Punaro, you're a military guy, obviously retired U.S. Marine Corps, CEO of Punaro Group. What are your thoughts about what's going to happen? One of the things Ed and I were talking earlier, Ed Cox, who's also here, we were talking, when you see the buildup of the different assets that are coming in, it looks like there's a lot of special ops guys, a lot of Marines are coming in, you know that well, and also 100 medics. That's interesting. How do you read that they're saying that and they're also announcing that?
My view is I have great respect and deference to our warfighting combatant commanders. In any conflict that we've ever been, and I've been in a number of shooting wars, we move forces in and out as the circumstances on the ground change. Obviously, the president has got some goals and objectives he's sending to our warfighting commanders, and they're looking at what is the force we need in the region should we get the order from the president to execute. So my view is that they're bringing the forces in that they think they may need to basically carry out the commander-in-chief's instructions.
Let's talk about a couple things. One thing, Pickaxe Mountain. This is this big mountain. It's right near the Natanz nuclear site. The Natanz was hammered in Operation Epic Fury when the first, the pounding of the three different sites. And then there's been these reports that Israel has said some intel that they've moved centrifuges to Pickaxe. Pickaxe, I just saw a report, is 6,000 feet, I believe, below ground. I mean, that is enormous. It's an enormous structure.
It's
very
a mile
deep embedded.
Down.
That's what I'm saying. Do we have the capabilities? What do you think, John? I mean, that's a biggie.
Well, yeah, I would say, look, we don't want them to have any ability to reconstitute or relocate. And the Wall Street Journal implied several weeks ago that there was intelligence that they were trying to do something in that area. I think we can basically, we have a lot of capability to basically keep anybody from working in that area. I mean, whether it's deeply buried or anything, you still have to move people in and out, and you still have to move goods and services and equipment in and out. And if they understand that, if we see anything move in that area, they're not going to be alive for very long. So my view is it's a very legitimate military target, and I hope we do some bombing in that area.
What about also Karg Island? That's the other thing. That's the mother lode where like an enormous amount of Iranian, especially their oil exports, come from. So far, we haven't heard really of too much of it being touched there. But I would imagine seizing it somehow, getting control of it, I mean, that would cripple them.
I've advocated for months that we ought to allow the Marine Amphibious Ready Group, perhaps some of our special operators, to seize and establish a lodgment on Karg Island. 90% of all Iranian oil is offloaded onto tankers from Karg Island. Karg Island does not have a bridge or a road connecting it to the mainland. If Iran said, okay, well, if you go on Karg Island, we're going to, shoot a lot of missiles your way or drones. And of course, what they'd be doing is destroying their own oil infrastructure. So I'm not sure how legitimate a concern that would be. Certainly, we have the capability to do that. Frankly, my view is we should have already done that. I think it was a huge mistake to allow them to get $6 billion worth of oil revenues during the limited ceasefire window. So we shouldn't let that happen again.
Yeah, great points. Well, General, please keep us posted. We always love your great insight, and thank you for your great service to this country. Many years in the U.S. Marine Corps, so you know what you're talking about. Thank you very much.
Quite welcome. Anytime.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for fighting for America.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Thank you. And you guys, John, you and I were talking last night when this news broke that there has been a referral from the House Judiciary Committee to the Department of Justice, and it's for the former special counsel during the Biden era, the attack dog against President Trump, Jack Smith. So what does all this mean? Well, joining us now is Greg Jarrett, Fox News legal analyst. Greg, how serious could this be for Jack Smith? Because it's over that he may have lied under oath because he claimed that they didn't have access to actual text messages of like 40 plus members of Congress. And it turns out, according to Senator Grassley, they did. That sounds like a no-no.
It's quite serious. Smith could be facing criminal charges for perjury and false statements, which is what Chairman Jim Jordan is accusing him of. You'll recall that about 7 months ago, Smith testified that he and his legal team never obtained or read any communications from members of Congress, but newly revealed DOJ documents show that they did. Indeed, they read the text messages and probably emails of more than 40 members of Congress, as well as text messages from White House phones. Now, Smith may try to weasel out of it by claiming that, well, I really said in my testimony I didn't recall. That's not true. Take a look at the entirety of his testimony. At times he said, not that I recall, but other times he was emphatic in his answers that he never accessed or read communications and only examined toll records. That is clearly untrue, but either way, it doesn't matter because he didn't tell the whole truth. And for that, you can be criminally charged under 18 U.S.C. 1001. That statute makes it a crime, not just to lie outright, but to provide incomplete truths or omissions is called a material misrepresentation. In this case, misleading Congress and doing so quite deliberately. So, it's the equivalent of concealment. It's a crime. Smith is looking at potential criminal charges against him.
Wow. Judge Weinberg.
Good to talk to you, Greg. I don't know if you saw this op-ed that in the last couple of days in the New York Times where some lawyer made the allegation that the seizure of Maduro in Venezuela was somehow wrongful and therefore the United States had no jurisdiction over him and trying to get the case dismissed. And I wanted your thoughts on it. I know a little bit about it because I worked on the French Connection case, and there's something called the Kerr-Frisbee doctrine. Would you educate our listeners about this?
Well, historically, we have seized criminals from other countries that have committed crimes against Americans. And look at all the cartel members that we have taken out of Mexico. Look at I think it was George H.W. Bush, who also seized. I forget who it was.
Noriega?
Noriega.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, Panama.
So look, no, it's not illegal to do that. It's not a crime to do that. America, can reach into other countries and seize and obtain either through process or just grabbing people and bringing them back to the United States to face justice.
And the Supreme Court of the United States has been very clear on that. That we have an absolute right to do that, criminals against United States law.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just committing crimes within the United States, but, crimes committed against Americans anywhere in the world, those people can be taken by the United States, brought back to the U.S. to face justice. You're right, Judge.
So, Greg Jarrett, what about Joe Biden? Before we let you go, this is wild because he's fighting the release. We were just talking about Jack Smith before. Then Robert Hur, of course, got access to some of this material. Joe Biden doesn't want it released. It's the video, right? Video, audio, and transcripts. But because we're obviously going to see how addled he was. And he's fighting a tooth and nail. Where's that going? Because he doesn't have too many more legal options left, right?
Yeah, well, the Court of Appeals made the correct ruling that there's a substantial public interest in disclosing the material that Biden wants to keep hidden. I wrote a column about this a few weeks ago, saying that Americans deserve to hear the truth for themselves about how Biden illegally kept or stole troves of classified documents, and then he compounded the felonies by sharing them with someone who had no authorization. That's a direct violation of the law, the Espionage Act. It's a fundamental legal principle that when a person commits criminal acts, even if they're not charged, that person has no right to conceal the incriminating evidence, which is what Joe Biden wants to do. On the tapes, Biden openly admits to the ghostwriter, I squirreled away all these top secret records. Let me go get them, and I'll read them to you.
He had no claim of protection under federal law because he was only vice president. Only the president had a claim.
Yeah, and a lot of the documents he took as a senator. So he didn't have protection there either under the Federal Records Act. So, this was a cover-up. Anybody else would have been criminally charged. But instead, the special counsel, Robert Hur, said, well, I can't charge him because he's really incompetent. He's an old man with a poor memory and so forth. Oh, but it's okay for him to serve as president of the United States, but he's just not competent to stand trial.
Right.
You got to laugh at that.
Right. You can't make it up.
No such thing as the 25th Amendment.
Oh, yeah. Greg, thank you very much. It's so great to have you here and get your great, just your analysis always. It's wonderful. Thank you, Greg.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Thanks so much. And, John, we have a break because we have coming up
Mike Lindell.
I can't wait. He'll be up.
And he was with the president last Saturday night, and we want to hear about that. And he's one of the leaders for Minnesota to be governor. And, he's a colorful person.
I can't wait to hear. I love Mike Lindell. Let's see what he has to say.
Let's see what he has to say.
common sense recap of the big stories. It's Cats and Cosby on 77 WABC.
Well, let's go to Minnesota, and from pillows to meetings,
politics.
Well, to politics, to meetings with the president last Saturday night, and in the lead in the polls for governor in the state of Minnesota, we have Mike Lindell, and you vote for him once, you get one pillow. You vote for him twice, you get two pillows.
Don't get me in trouble now, John.
Mike, but you're doing great.
Congratulations. Tell us about your meeting with the president on Saturday night.
Well, we actually had this event scheduled, not expecting him to come in. We had it scheduled about 4 months ago as a fundraiser, and we were all just ready to start. We had the pre-party kind of everybody getting in the couple of the rooms. We had just got in where we were going to go sit down, and the doors opened. It was a big surprise. He came in and he gave about 5-10 minutes. It was very epic. The kindest words and believe it in me. He goes, I'm endorsing Mike. He doesn't give up because he campaigned harder for me than anyone, and it's just a lot of great words and a lot of encouraging words, and encourage the donors that there's hope in Minnesota, the tip of the spear on many things with the fraud and everything else going on, and our politicians here that we've got to get rid of. And so I think it was just a great night. We had Joe Piscopo played, my good friend Joe, and speaking. It went about I think we were in there 6 hours. I mean, it was a long event and just amazing.
Well, you have a great name recognition in Minnesota, and people know you, so that puts you way ahead at that point. And what is the biggest point? I mean, all this fraud going on in Minnesota, can it be stopped?
Yeah, the fraud can be stopped. What's happened in Minnesota, I was born and raised here, and it's become one of the most unaffordable states there is. I think it started with Minnesota Nice. Okay, we're gonna do this with this welfare program, we're gonna do this with this, and we have over 400 NGOs, and then to have the fraud come in and they're stealing from it, and shipping it out of the country and all these things, it's horrible. But in the meantime, people that live here, we have one of the highest property tax in the country, the highest income tax, or one of the highest corporate taxes, highest sales tax. It's just unaffordable. And then these programs that we're paying for, and it's astronomical. We have stuff, just for illegal aliens that we have in our prisons here in Minnesota. We have a 1,400 that we're housing, and $85,000 a year we pay, which is $110 million. And all we have to do is go with what the president does, go with ICE, say, hey, could you come and pick these guys up and get them out of here? And there's so many nonsensical things going on in Minnesota that I'm just watching. I'm going, you know what? I got to run for governor because we never seem to win. It's the same old input, same output. And yeah, the polls are looking great in every demographic and every age category. So, and people say, well, Mike Lindell doesn't have, he comes with baggage. He's praying for the president. He was all about the election fraud and stuff and disproven, all this stuff disproven. I'm going, well, you know what? The president just declassified a lot last week, right after the endorsement comes on perfect timing. All my lawsuits getting dropped out there. And so, they can say it comes with baggage, but we have an opportunity here because of the fraud in Minnesota that a door opened up where now we can say, hey, point to these programs and look at them and say, number one, let's just take the fraud out for a minute, which could be upwards of $20 billion. You look at it and say, are these programs working? Can you make them better? I'm a businessman. I'm going to look at every single aspect, every single thing we have in Minnesota, from the teachers to the farmers to the inner city, which is my wheelhouse, being a former addict. And I'm going to put out my budget. I'm hoping to have my budget out in the next couple of weeks, because I'm not going to be one of these politicians that goes, we have one of them in our state running this Kendall Falls. He goes, I'm going to give a $9 billion rebate if I win. Well, where are you going to get the money from? That's a big statement. You get all these phony statements in politics, and I'm going, you know what? You see my budget, and here's what I'm going to do, and this, and they're instead of saying how are you going to do it, Mike, they're going to go, oh, this makes sense.
Bravo, bravo, Mike. Everybody, we're talking to Mike Lindell. We have Ed Cox here.
So Mike, the last time a Republican won a statewide race was 2006. So it's an uphill climb. But with Trump's endorsement, there are a lot of Democrats, I'm sure, will come over to support you. But you got to get them out. How are you going to do that?
To get what out? To get
the vote out. To get Democrats, everybody out.
To get the Democrats who support Trump.
I have the biggest voice. You know that. I got a big mouth. Okay,
that's a plus in politics.
You bet.
I mean, since I got the president's endorsement, I've been attacked now for 5 days. Mike wants amnesty.
Yeah, that's a badge of courage.
Yeah. Mike wants amnesty to all the illegals, and then Mike isn't even registered to vote. Mike doesn't live in Minnesota. He lives in Texas. Mike doesn't have a driver's license. But everybody now knows I'm running for governor. I'll tell you that. And then here's the other thing we're doing. I can raise the most money nationally because of the name and because Minnesota has the fraud, and everybody knows we got these problems nationwide too. And so we're going around. I've already raised, I don't know, upwards of $3-4 million, and that was, and we're doing. We have yard signs. We're going to get up to 20,000 yard signs, billboards. Remember, I helped the president. I campaigned with him. I went to, over 150 rallies, and the big advantage I have too is I have 9 million people on my social media. I have 12 million emails. I have 2 million phone numbers, and I have teams that I set up in every district in Minnesota. I call them ambassadors. 67 Senate districts. They're working on the ground, engaging the churches, and I'm going around Minnesota. I'm doing town halls. I've already done upwards of 30, 35 of them, going around Minnesota, getting everybody engaged. And then, yes, will the TV and radio come? Absolutely. Right? But what I'm saying is, right now, putting my budget out.
Well, by the way, Mike, you are always welcome here, and we got to get you on again soon. It's great to have you. You got a lot of numbers there. That's great. That is really great.
And Mike, you know what we all stand for?
Truth, justice, and the American way.
God bless America. And
Levin in progress.
There's never been a single president who has stood up to Iran and hit back. For 47 years, our troops and our families have been absorbing attack after attack after attack all over the world. And their radical ideology does not stop at the Persian Gulf. It doesn't stop at Tel Aviv. They want to do this everywhere. It's a global radical ideology. And we've been fighting it for half a century. We didn't start this war. We did not, but we will finish it. And forever wars are not popular with anybody these days. Both sides of that, I love to attack our forever wars. And I can promise you, being someone